Hello and welcome to this tutorial. In this tutorial, we continue answering questions on the atomic structure. And in this question, we are required to find the mass number, the proton number, and the charge given this electronic structure. So, just to give a quick recap. So, when we have a nuclide like this, we know that A represents the relative atomic mass, which is the mass number, then B represents the proton number. Then obviously here, that is where we put the charge. So for an atom, when the proton number is equal to the electron number, this represents an atom, and for an atom, the charge is 0. The charge is 0. But when you're dealing with an ion, where the proton number is not equal to the electron number, it's either we have a positively charged ion or a negatively charged ion. So positively charged ion means losing. Then negatively charged ion means gaining electrons. So looking at the structure that is given in this question, we have the key. So the key shows red represents a proton, blue represents an electron, then gray represents a neutron. So in the structure given, we have one red. So one red means one proton. So we have one proton. Then how do we know the mass number? So mass number, which is the relative atomic mass, is given by proton number plus neutron number. So in this case, the proton number is 1. The neutron number, there is no gray, is 0. So therefore the mass is 1. So in terms of mass, the mass number is 1. Then what about the charge? So how do we know the charge? So to know whether this is an atom or it's an ion, we are guided by the key here. So we know that when P is equal to E, meaning when the proton number is equal to the electron number, it's an atom. But in this case, we notice that there is only a proton, which is red. There is no blue. So if there is no blue, it means that there was a loss of an electron, and a loss is represented by a positive charge. So in this case, we say there was a loss of 1 electron, and the answer is correct. Let's look at the second question. Again, we are asked to find the mass number, the proton number, and the charge. So how do we know the proton number? So the proton number is 13. Then how do we find the neutron number? So the mass number. The mass number is given by proton number plus neutron number. So it's going to be 13 plus 14, which will give us 27. 27. Then how do we tell the charge? So the charge, again, you compare. If the proton number is not equal to the electron number, then you know that it's not an atom, so the charge cannot be 0. Then when you look at the proton number, initially the proton number was 13. So if this was an atom, when P was equal to E, if this was 13, even the number of electrons was 13, then we say this was an atom. But the case we're looking at, the proton number is 13, then the electron number has reduced to 10. So meaning there is a loss of 3, and a loss represents a positive. So we'll say positive 3 electrons. Positive charge. So 3 electrons were lost. How do we find the proton number? So the proton number is the one which is down below 7. Then how do we find the neutron number. So to find neutron number, we use this same formula, but to find neutron number becomes mass number minus proton. So it's just the number on top, which is a 15, minus 7, which is going to give us 8. Then how do you find the number of electrons? So if this was an atom, the proton number was supposed to be equal to the electron number. So the P was supposed to be equal to the E if this was an atom. But you have noticed that there is a -3. So by negative, it means it gained. So initially this was 7, and we know that this was 8. So the number of electrons is going to be 7 plus 3, which is giving us 10. So this means that it gained 3 electrons from its initial electrons as an atom. So this becomes 10, and that is correct. This one, how do we build? So how many protons? So we have 2 protons, that is at the center. How do we find the neutron number? So mass number, which is 4 minus 2, so we have 2 neutrons. Then in terms of electrons, so we can see that the charge here is 0. So if the charge is 0, it means that you're dealing with an atom, which basically means that the proton number is equal to the electron number. So even the number of electrons is 2, and that is correct. In this case, how do you find the proton number? So the proton number is always the number down below, which is 12. How do you find the neutron number? So it's going to be 26 minus 12, which is going to be 14. Then how do you find the electron number? So electron number, in this case, it's a +2. So +2 means it's losing 2. So from its initial 12, when it was an atom, when P was equal to E, obviously this was 12 and this was 12. But now it's Mg2 positive, so meaning it's losing 2. So from its initial electron, when we subtract 2, we remain with 10. So the number of electrons is going to be 10. And that's correct. So for any questions, clarifications, you can write them down in the comment section. See you in the next video.